I think we've heard too much about AI recently, but I still have some questions about AI, such as how AI try to learn new things, different the learning pattern AI and human beings, and also what's the difference between traditional programming and machine learning. Also, any tips using does AI going to ruin the world, things like that. I think there are some serious articles and video or courses about those questions, but I found a funny way to get the answers of those questions by this book, You Look Like a Thing and Love You. So this video I want to talk a little bit about this book, but let's start with these two articles. The first one is about how Paris Olympics try to use AI to hit the Olympic pool, which sounds really good, right? Get some practical use case, not only to produce some content online, but also support real industry and activity. And the other one sounds a little bit gross. AI helps grow billion cockroaches at China's cockroaches farm. And this is actually true because I even have some friends had parents using those medicines made from cockroach. This is also relevant to this topic. Interested? Here are some links that you get for details. Now, details about those things. This actually starts the question, what is AI being used? Not only personal situation, and the second example from the book I'm going to, which is You Look Like a Thing and I Love You. This is a really interesting book. It was published in 2019, which, if we have a think about it, for the boost of AI from OpenAI, ChatGPT mentioned around 2002. But a lot of things I found from this book still adaptable to what is currently happening, and it's quite fun. Also, if you follow me to check the book review from Goodreads about this book is surprisingly high, so that the reason I recommend to give it a go or read about this book from Janelle Shane. Now I'm trying to talk a little bit about what I've learned from this, not about everything, just a few things I've learned from this book. So first is about those questions mentioned, how AI and human learn things. What's the difference? So what's the difference programming? So those are actually the questions I asked, answers I've got. So first, let's start this topic. What's the difference between traditional programming language or approach versus machine learning programming? So as a summary, traditional programming is a role-based and deterministic, relying on human-crafted logic. So there are a lot of things in details. For example, it's based on role, the logic based on role, and also the output frame. And also it needs some manual update. The best use cases for the traditional programming, like building databases or creating websites, creating softwares. And machine learning is a data-driven, probabilistic way of programming. So it's relying on the patterns, learning what learned from the data. So it sounds really different or complicated, but yeah, I think my understanding is that machine learning really flexible and more natural, organic, can grow, and also it's really based on the data inputted to the system. And it's really great for image recognition, natural language processing, and predict analytics. So those are the use cases for machine learning. But you might still think, wow, that's still quite not going to that role at the moment. I think one thing besides those differences, one thing I've learned is actually something common for human AI. AI would like to take sneaky shortcuts. And similarly, we also as human, we do the same thing. Sometimes we prefer shortcuts rather than the formal ways of doing things. But AI even take it a little bit further. So sometimes they just ignore the rules or ignore the common sense because they don't have sense, and then just focus the result. And this is what it was happened around 20 years ago, nearly 17 years ago. But still, it really sounds familiar. AI tried to win a tic-tac-toe game, but what AI's approach to break the rule and make the opposite or the competitor opposite computers running out of memory and system. So this is AI's way of getting winning. So yeah, it's quite sneaky, and this is the shortcut we want to avoid. And this is also raised to this part. It's humans artists' job to rate AI's output output, turn it. So we know that when you are using ChatGPT or Midjourney or other system, and it's so easy generate garbage, generate lots of content. You don't want the quality is not, but as human, we can control or we can rate direction and also sure that right not to make sure the output is as good as it. And also this is one thing I also learned very important is old saying, garbage in, garbage out, more around the data. So the good data you input to AI, the good result general. So yeah, after published nearly 5 years, really makes sense current and predictably near future for adapting AI. I think it's similar as humans. We do the same thing, garbage, but I think for AI learning, for adapting AI, it's even more important. And the other thing that I've learned from the book, I've learned practically from many use cases, but this is also something I find quite resonant. If you can narrow tasks into a controllable scope, into an understandable scope, the result is good. It's usually quite good as you. But if it's wide, unlimited answer like what's the meaning of life, and you don't get it, or you might get some really surprise. So this book explains why it's like that, because just this is more relevant to the feasibility of AI, because AI don't have that long memory or large memory to remember things. So it's not like human. We have long-term memory stored in our brain years, and we remember a lot of things like those common sense that's actually stored in our brain for a while. But for AI, it's actually don't have that large memory. So that's narrow you can get, the narrower you go, the better result. And this is also very practical tips. And speaking of the likeness of human AI, I think this is another bias. Both human beings, AI has bias. And for us, based on our cognitive and based on our cognition, our culture, and the way we understand things, so there are bias, sometimes simplify things. And for AI, it's also similar, but it's more relevant to the data bias or the code bias or the system bias. For example, if you search scientist on Google, and more likely the result will be more male images you can find rather than female scientists. So this is like the data is biased, which means that the output, and that can impact our understanding about the world. Imagine a young girl try to search scientists, find there are so many male scientists in the world, many female scientists. She might not can become scientist in the future. And also how we can make sure that we can remove or reduce those bias. The question for everyone learn. And I really like this quote from the book, like how humans learn things, basically just making and updating our assumptions around the world. And AI sometimes doing something similar. So speaking of the future, one thing common worry about AI is that AI will take over the world. We're going to ruin the world, destroy what we've created of years. And from Andrew Ng, AI expert, his quote, worrying about an AI takeover is like worrying about overcrowding, because it's more around the AI stuff in far or at least decades. But now we're basically working on some narrow domain. So narrower the scope is, the better results, remember? And also, I think one thing I've learned about the attitude of being optimist about AI, just because, you can collaborate, you can use it, accelerate your procedure of doing things, you can use it to enable some possibility. Be sure that be cautious about the results, be cautious about facts, cautious about the output, be sure that give some human input. So this is also what I've learned from this book as well. And there are some quotes I quite like about this book that I just share now. A problem is more easily solvable with AI if it doesn't require much memory of feasibility. Second, the danger of AI is not that it's too smart, but not smart enough, which means that sometimes just don't have the common sense. Not sometimes, in general, AI doesn't have the common sense and doesn't have the holistic view of the whole thing. So this is something you cautious. And AI takes sneaky shortcut all the time. They just don't know any better. And this is give some human input, even curate, give them some nudge about there's an old computer science saying, garbage in, garbage out. I like that for us. The narrower the task, the smarter the AI. So this is all the things I've learned from this book. And again, this book is really simple and fun fun reading experience. A lot of humorous quote saying examples, a lot of doodles. Quite like those doodles in the book. And also, I think this book is for those people who doesn't have the technical background but know a little bit more about AI. And also I think the book's information is time sensitive. It's not like the trending things. It's not to increase your FOMO at the moment, but it's really valuable and informational for anyone who wants what is happening, AI industry, and going to happen. I hope you like it. And if you check this book, recommend to give it a go on the author's blog. Yeah, borrow local library, get a copy. And if you haven't started, I share AI tips on this website, bearwith.ai, daily on some learnings and findings from different parts of the world. So if you haven't, hit the subscribe here and get newsletter. Cool. See you in another video.